post-apocalyptic, like Dr. Stone, essentially. As if something bad happened and people had to start over and there are still remnants of the past advanced technology. It's either that, magic, or aliens. That's kind of a joke. So Crocodile's ultimate objective is to use Pluton to create the world's... Sorry, but what I think they were referring to... You know how some people say, like, the pyramids in Egypt couldn't be built without, like, advanced technology, so it was either aliens or our world is post-apocalyptic and there was more advanced people back then, and then we had to start, we lost our knowledge or resources, or it's like not the whole world had access to that kind of advanced technology, like they kept it to themselves, like Wakanda. I don't know, could be. So Crocodile's ultimate objective is to use the Pluton to create the world's most powerful military nation, so powerful that the world government could not stop him. Does he want to rule the world this way, or just guarantee that he can do whatever he wants in this world, seeing that he'd have such destructive power that no one could stop him? Either way, it doesn't matter, as we all know he won't succeed. Where or what is the poneglyph? So this question is not unanswered. It does get answered in episode format text strike through. Sorry, I just want to quickly fix this. Strike through. Okay, gets answered in episode 123. Okay. Whenever someone yields to Crocodile and his plans, he says something complimentary, like, "You're a clever man." Just what I'd expect from a wise king, Cobra. You're a clever man. So when Cobra gave in and told Crocodile he would take him to where the poneglyph is, he said, "You're a clever man." But when someone like Vivi or Luffy stands up against him, despite them being weaker than he is, he calls them worthless and stupid. I'm just pointing this out because I believe it's a terrible way of thinking. For a villain, of course it makes sense, but how often do we call someone stupid just because they don't agree with us or their ideals don't align with our ideals? Maybe not out loud, but I've seen these kinds of arguments often enough on Twitter to realize more people are like this than I wish was possible. I just saw another parallel between Usopp and Nami. Usopp wanted eyelashes to carry him, just like Nami got Zoro to carry her later in another episode. It was just a funny parallel, and a lot of things hint at how similar they are to each other. This looked very cool, by the way, this scene. I just thought it was so cool. When Nami was holding off Miss Doublefinger's sea urchin head, her foot literally impaled, and she said, "This doesn't hurt. This doesn't even itch. Do you even know how much she's been through? Compared to that, giving up one leg or two legs or three legs is nothing." That is literally I say literally too much as well, apparently. That's my favorite Nami moment ever, and I don't know when is something going to top that, but I should mark that somewhere as the best Nami moment, when she said those things in that moment about her friend. Oh, fucking amazing. Another amazing exchange / conversation happens at the end of the episode. Zoro: "Since I can't cut steel, I can't beat you either. Mr. One, then what will you do?" Zoro: "Well, I'll pity you. A predicament like this is just what I needed. I've been itching for a chance to get one step stronger. When I beat you, I'll have become a man who can cut steel." Fucking awesome! I absolutely love this mentality. Imagine if we faced the world like that. If only more people, myself included, viewed each challenge as an opportunity to get stronger, instead of complaining about something being difficult, impossible, making excuses, blaming others, or giving up. Like, imagine if more people were taught this mentality. Oh, your parents were shitty parents? Well, opportunity to get stronger, opportunity to rise above, become a better, more interesting person. Like, there's so many situations in which this can apply. And I use the parents reference specifically because when I was younger, I used to feel like, for personal reasons, that my parents' stuff held me back because I don't want to get into personal stuff, but I just want to say that that reference I made was for me, like, obviously in the last couple of years I've been moving away from, just blaming my parents and saying it's like they didn't believe in me, so why would I believe in me? They had so much issues, like that was all our family was about, was these issues, and I never, took off. Like I had that vision like this, and obviously in the last couple of years I've been coming into my own and realizing that their beliefs don't dictate what is possible for me. Now I've come to think of it in that way. Like I said, their beliefs don't dictate my potential, but it came a little late. Like I had to figure this out through so many self-help books. But if I had just watched One Piece, I wouldn't just have felt that way. I would have literally not just reaching new heights despite your challenges, but reaching new heights because of your challenges. So do you understand the difference between that? Like, I became a stronger person despite how terrible my parents were. No, it's because of them that I had to look at myself and say, like, I don't want that for myself. I am choosing this path. If things weren't exactly like that, if I didn't overcome those challenges, like if Zoro didn't have this challenge in front of him right now, he wouldn't be able to become a man who can now cut steel. So it's not despite his challenges that he'll become a man who cuts steel. It's because of them. Do you understand the difference? Like, I get so worked up, I'm sorry, about these kinds of things. But if we can just grasp that understanding, it can literally change our lives. The difference between despite and because of. But even just starting with despite my challenges, I can do XYZ. Even that is a better attitude than just focusing, I can't do it because of this. So I'm not saying it's wrong to do it in the despite way. I'm just saying seeing it as an opportunity is just so much more, it's so much better. It feels so much better than saying, I can do this because of that. It feels better than saying, I can do this despite of that. It's just a different energy. But both those energies are better than saying, I can't do it because of that. Episode 119, Essence of a Mighty Sword, the power to cut steel and the breath of all things. Probably one of my favorite episodes. There's a lot of notes here, and please bear with me. I tried my best to express myself, but we'll see how I did. This is a really important episode, as this is the moment that Zoro learns to cut steel. In the previous episode, it was obvious that Zoro's attitude towards the challenge was one of excitement. He saw it as an opportunity to grow and become stronger, and did not once hesitate or take a step back, figuratively speaking. The fight begins, and after some back and forth swordplay between the two of them, Zoro uses onigiri and toragari as seemingly finishing moves. Like, those are usually moves that he ends an opponent with. But as he turns around, he realizes that he didn't even manage to scratch Mr. One. Even Zoro admits that this is a bit shocking to him. He is still confident enough, however, to laugh in the face of a challenge more difficult than he has ever faced before, with the exception of Mihawk, obviously. Around 8:46 in the episode, the one on Crunchyroll at least, is the first time we hear Zoro sounding frustrated and maybe a little defeated. Like, not defeated as if he's been defeated, but it's a saying, like, you sound defeated. But I think frustrated is the right word there. I don't have to use both, but whatever. I've trained myself more than anyone. I've been in many difficult situations on the brink of death and always risen to the occasion. He thinks of the words he said to Mr. One. When I beat you, I'll have become a man who can even cut steel. Maybe in this moment, lying crushed underneath a building, for a moment he is doubting his ability, but not in such a way that he thinks he can't do it. He just thinks, what am I missing? So it's not like he's doubting his ability, thinking I'm not good enough. He's just asking himself, what am I missing so that I can do it? Once again, he does not make an excuse or blame anyone or anything in his life. He just asks a question that will bring him to the right answer, what he needs in the situation to overcome it. His mind goes back to when he was a child, training to become the world's greatest swordsman. Queena's father, in the flashback, shows Zoro a paper and continues to attack the paper. He goes like, ha! Without the paper being sliced at all. This had me thinking about a common samurai myth. The myth is a good samurai sword will slice through a silk scarf that's dropped on the blade. The truth is, the katana and other Japanese swords are designed to slice objects as the blade is pulled across the target. If an object is simply dropped on the blade, it's very unlikely that any slicing action will occur. I think I mentioned this later, but that's also why it's possible for like circus people to walk on blades, because just putting your foot down, there's no slicing. So it's all about the will of the swordsman. You know, does he slice? How he uses his blade. And that becomes more obvious later. I think what Queena's father was trying to teach Zoro is that the swordsman's will is very important. Logically, for lack of a better word, it probably has to do with an insane ability to control the blade. So could it be that the paper was not cut because he used the sword in such a way that it was not a slicing action, but rather more like a pushing the blade at the paper, resulting in it not being cut. Like how people are able to walk on swords, their feet pushing on the blade, but since there's no slicing action, they do not get cut. Okay, I already mentioned that. I did rewatch the scene, and it does look like that seems to be the case. Regardless, it ties in with the idea of a swordsman willing the sword to cut or not, using their insane skill and understanding of the sword and their ability and what it is that they are cutting. There are swordsmen who can cut nothing. However, the same swordsman can also cut steel or anything else they wish. In other words, from my understanding, a true great swordsman is not just determined by whether he or she can cut steel or not, by how strong they are, like their force. A great swordsman can cut nothing, meaning he or she can choose to not cut because of their control over the blade. Here, the focus is more on the control than power. Zoro, in my opinion, up to now has been focused solely on power, but back then, Queena's father tried to teach him power is not the be-all and end-all. Basically, power isn't everything. It's not nothing, but it's not everything. The strongest blade is one which has the power to protect what you wish to protect and cut what you wish to cut. So, you see what that means. The strongest blade, strongest, is the one which has the power to protect what you wish to protect and cut what you wish to cut. So that lies in control. Once again, this comes down to the swordsman's choice, their will, whether they choose to protect or choose to cut. The katana's strength is dependent on that, not the other way around. In the flashback, for a long time, little Zoro sits staring at Queena's father while he is in a meditative position. Zoro just stares at him while a butterfly slowly passes by. There is no aha moment because I don't think Zoro understood what he meant back then. This is emphasized at the end of the flashback when Zoro says in an excited voice, "Sensei, I'll become a swordsman who can cut anything." And he replies with, "Zoro, were you listening to me?" Because he specifically spoke about nothing, and we'll come back to the word nothing again. There is something else that is really important in this scene, at least in my opinion, it's important. As you can see here, just take a look at, he's sitting like this, with a smile on his face. As you can see, Queena's father seems to be meditating. Well, he's in that position. His hands are in a specific position and he has a soft smile on his face. This may seem insignificant, but from my understanding of Oda's talent and attention to detail, I don't think that it is. His hands are in the Dhyana Mudra position. Dhyana Mudra is a hand gesture used by yogis during meditation exercises to build and improve the ability to concentrate and heal. Both hands are placed on the lap, the right hand on top of the left hand, palms facing upwards. In Buddhism, this mudra is displayed with the tips of the thumbs touching. This shape of triangle represents 3 jewels of Buddhism: Buddha, Sangha, and Dharma. Sangha being community and Dharma being teachings. The connection of the thumbs also represents the union of male and female principles present in every human being. So here is an example of the hand gesture, and he is sitting in that exact same position with his hands. This mudra represents the gesture of total balance. The person using this mudra during meditation is immersed in the limitless space, completely untouched by the outside world. The right hand symbolizes wisdom and awareness, and the left one symbolizes the illusion of existence. It is used to balance duality across mind, body, and spirit, action and stillness, thinking and feeling, masculine and feminine, enlightenment and illusion. And I think with the illusion, it refers to how, we all look like physical human beings, but if you break us down, our skin is made of, what do you call them? I don't know, our bones are made of milk. What is in milk? I don't remember the kind of, that table, periodic table, and we're literally made up, and even that can be broken down, and that can be broken down into atoms. And atoms are just energy. So even though we look physical, it's just an illusion. We're just actually energetic beings, which doesn't mean that we don't feel pain, because sometimes people think if we say, we're illusions, what does that mean? Someone can stab you and you won't feel pain. No, it's not that. It's just that obviously we are physical beings, but we're so much more than that, I feel people sometimes go to 2 extremes. It's either enlightenment, or you're this crazy yogi person not eating meat and sitting all day in the sun meditating, or you're totally skin and bones and I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say? I'm sorry. I'm diverging from my notes. It is believed to have been used by Gautama Buddha, Siddhartha. So I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing the names wrong. Throughout his life, most notably during the famous moment of his enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. This is important for later in the episode, so I'll get to that. I just wanted to point out a few benefits of that meditation. Which hand is on top of which hand again? But there are benefits. The Dhyana Mudra helps you and lets you control your emotions and feelings. It increases concentration power, helps you to enhance memory, helps to get rid of stress and mental pressure, helps to balance your right and left side of your body, used for better healing of the body and the mind. So all these things are really important for a swordsman like Zoro, right? And he learned his techniques, everything from Kuina's father, and these are principles that would benefit you as a swordsman. Before I continue my notes on the episode, I want to take a look at the meaning of enlightenment. The English term enlightenment is the Western translation of the abstract noun Bodhi, the knowledge or wisdom or awakened intellect of Buddha. The verbal root Bud means to awaken, and its literal meaning is closer to awakening. Although its most common usage is in the context of Buddhism, the term Buddhi is also used in other Indian philosophies and traditions. The term enlightenment was popularized in the Western world through the 19th century translations of Max Muller. It has the Western connotation of a sudden insight into a transcendental truth or reality. Transcendental reality. You can click here if you want to read more, because this is taken from Wikipedia. By the way, that hand technique existed long before Buddha, but I associate it with Buddhism because not only does he use that hand technique, but he also has a soft smile, Queena's father I mean, resting on his face. Just like a common image I associate in the West, we associate in the West with Prince Siddhartha Gautama. The smiling Buddha statues were inspired by him, I believe. Like, I've heard a lot about these kinds of smiling meditations which were inspired by, you know, that little smiling Buddha statue, and that statue is based on Prince Siddhartha Gautama. Okay, so he wanted to know the cause of suffering, and when he discovered it, he became known as the Buddha, the enlightened one, enlightened enough to forge a path out of suffering into bliss, which is why he's very often depicted as a smiling Buddha. This is not entirely relevant, but before I continue, I'd like to share this post on the spiritual power of a smile. So if you do just want to go read that, I think it's pretty amazing. It's very interesting, and it's also in a scientific way it can be explained. Like, when you smile and you sit and smile, meditate with a smile on your face, it's because you smile when you're happy, doing that action, forcing your face into that action, lets your brain release certain, hormones or whatever, and it makes you feel good. And when your body feels good, it is like, in the same way that when you're in a constant state of stress for a long period of time, that can make you sick. If you can maintain a strong sense of happiness and your body can feel that for longer times throughout each day, it can help you be a healthier person. Okay, back to the episode. As the flashback ends, Zoro begins to lift the building, obviously exaggerated strength, but since we've seen even Usopp can throw a brick wall off himself, this isn't that much of a stretch within the One Piece world. I'm sorry to say, you won't ever get to witness the magnificence of me cutting steel, because the moment I can cut steel will be the same moment you'll be lying at my feet. Up to now, Zoro has not been able to cut steel, but he asked himself, what am I missing? And thought back to that conversation with his sensei, or Shisho, I'm not sure which one is the right word. Just before the middle card of the episode pops up, Zoro repeats Queena's father's words to himself. A sword which cuts nothing. Could understanding his sensei's words back then be what he was missing all this time? I think that is the case, since by the end of this episode, he was able to cut steel. Cut nothing, cut steel. What the hell is that supposed to mean? The understanding did not come to him easily, however. Midway through the episode, he reverts back to thinking, push with all your force. That is the essence of a mighty sword. Once again, Zoro goes at Mr. One full force, but to no avail. Like, you can see here, after thinking those things, he doesn't understand. He still doesn't get it. And he says, he just falls back into his regular way of thinking. Push with all your might, with all your force. That is the essence of a mighty sword. He tries another move, Gazam Dori. This knocks Mr. One back and off his feet for a second, but not a scratch is left on him. This is the moment where Mr. One reveals a different kind of weapon he is capable of using. On his arms, something that looks like this, like, I don't know, a power sword or some shit. You know, remember when he did that? Okay. Mr. One uses this weapon to fight against Zoro, and for a moment it overpowers him and knocks him back. He manages a pretty severe hit on Zoro since we see him falling back. I don't think it could have been too deep since he was falling back, but it definitely did a lot of damage and there was an alarming amount of blood. Like, what I mean is, like, it didn't rip his body open because he was falling back while it basically grazed him. But obviously it didn't not do any damage because that blood, okay. Zoro's swords were knocked out of his hands, remember that, and he was thrown into a pillar. I thought for a brief moment he might lose again. At this moment, where it looked like it was impossible for Zoro to make a comeback, he thought about his nakama and wondered whether they were okay. Recently, we were discussing each character's possible weakness that makes viewers not like them, like how some people don't like Usopp for being weak, or Luffy for being an idiot, or Sanji for being besotted with women. Although, of course, there's two sides to each coin. Those are things that some of us love about those characters, but we were just talking about like different things that could be considered weaknesses. Not as a character a weakness, but for us viewers, stuff that many people don't like about the characters. Like, none of them are perfect. What is that thing or a couple of things that make them not perfect? Even though, like, some people love Luffy for being an idiot, you know? Okay, so there was one person who described Zoro's bad side as being a narcissist. And I almost fell out of my chair, to be honest. A narcissist is someone who has an inflated sense of their own importance and a deep need for excessive attention and admiration. In this moment, where Zoro is literally on the brink of death, yet his focus is on whether or not his friends are okay, what part of him is narcissistic? Is he obsessed with becoming the world's best swordsman, like Luffy wants to become the Pirate King? Yes. Does he train crazy hard to attain that dream? Yes. Does he sometimes sleep through a fight? Well, yes, but has he ever really let any one of his nakama down? For more than 100 episodes, up to this point in the anime, I have not seen that once. He is literally fighting Mr. One for Vivi's sake. Or if you don't think it's for Vivi's sake, then it's for his captain's sake. He doesn't have to be there, but he chose to follow Luffy. He chose to do all of this, you know? Since Luffy asked him to get Vivi home safely. Of course Zoro is not perfect. But then, having seen this scene and still calling him a narcissist, I don't understand that. To continue the discussion about the actual episode, it's as if on the brink of death, Zoro for a moment forgot about becoming the strongest swordsman, and when faced with his mortality, the final thought in his mind was a deep concern and caring for his nakama, and wanting to protect them. To see them again and make sure that they are safe and sound. This makes me think of Queena's father's words. The strongest blade is one which has the power to protect what you wish to protect and cut what you wish to cut. Maybe in that moment, when the rocks were just about to crush him, those words spoken to him so many years ago finally took effect. He knew where the rocks would not fall. He knew where his katana landed after being knocked out of his hands, despite it being lodged underneath like a boulder. It's like his senses were heightened. These are things that are technically possible to calculate given enough time. Where the rocks would scatter and which space would be safe and where his katana landed when it was knocked out of his hands. Like, obviously, if you had great hearing, you would hear exactly where it would fall. All those kinds of stuff, it can be calculated. If you knew where it fell, then obviously you'd know under which rock it would be. In that moment, however, with the couple of seconds he had and the pressure he was under, it should have been impossible for a normal person to know exactly these details, where to stand, where his katana fell. Our minds, after all, focuses our senses and filters things down so we do not get overwhelmed by the amount of information that surrounds us at every second of every day. There are hundreds of colors our eyes do not see, hundreds of sounds our ears do not hear, things we don't smell, like tastes we can't distinguish between. Not because we can't, but because there's so much stimuli and things are so different that we would go mad if our brain didn't filter and categorize things and put them into boxes like sweet, sour, salty. But there's actually so many tastes. Does that make sense? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, violet. But within that, hundreds of colors. But our brain just zip, 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 just to make it possible to select. So it's called selective hearing. It's to help us essentially, so that we can, the red one, and then move on with our day. Because otherwise, if we paid attention to every little stimuli, every little sound, every little smell, we wouldn't be able to function as well as we do. In certain situations, under certain conditions, people have done impossible things. The adrenaline, for example, that rushes through our bodies in times of extreme stress has made it possible for a mother to lift a car off of their child who was being crushed. I'm actually not sure if that's true, but it's an example that someone used to explain to me how. Another My Hero Academia example is when Deku should have literally not been able to run anymore, but because of the amount of adrenaline in his body, he could push himself much further than he should have been able to. I think in this moment, Zoro's mind was forced open. Some people might describe it as having an awakening, or being as close to the brink of enlightenment as he was to the brink of death. It could be that he has been in this heightened state of mind before, when fighting Mihawk, for example, or when fighting Hachi while being critically wounded. But it was like he entered it by accident and couldn't control this power. People meditate for years before they learn to enter and maintain a specific transcendental state after all. This has also been described as pure awareness in many meditative practices. Only with pure awareness, there is no sensation of separateness between the physical human body and the surrounding environment. This pure awareness is an awareness of consciousness. Everything is consciousness, and coming into pure awareness is the experience of realizing that we too are consciousness. That makes me think of that the breath of things. Like everything is breath, everything is energy, everything is consciousness, and you can tap into these different. I'll get to it. I wrote so much. Oh my god, my mind is reeling. Okay. It is also known as Neti Neti in Buddhism, once again bringing it back to Kuina's father and what he was trying to teach Zoro when Zoro was a child, back when he was probably not ready to hear or at least understand what he was hearing. Neti Neti is negation of something to get at the esoteric understanding of nothing. This understanding of nothing is recognized in Hinduism as Brahman and in Buddhism as emptiness. Something has a beginning, so Brahman or emptiness lies at the root of the beginning. So you understand this concept of you hear nothing. That's the same word that Kuina's father used. A great swordsman can cut nothing. And let me just repeat that. Neti Neti is negation of something to get at the esoteric understanding of nothing. Esoteric understanding. That is what he means with a great swordsman can cut nothing. You can interpret in so many ways, but this is another interpretation that I personally noticed. I'm not saying these are true. I might be looking into it in a different way than Oda intended, but this is just a theory. All of this is just theories. A sword which cuts nothing. What Kuina's father wanted to teach Zoro lies at the heart of these spiritual concepts. Zoro may not have been ready to understand them when he was a child, but now, upon experiencing the real world and all of its mysteries and limitations, and his desire to break through those limitations, Zoro is coming closer to grasping the knowledge that his sensei so willingly and simply shared with him all those years ago. Zoro, a breath, the breath of rocks. Trees have the breath of trees, and the sand has its own. Is that what it means? And then Kuina's father, these were words in the episode. In this world we live in, there are swordsmen who can cut nothing. Zoro, to cut nothing is to know that breath. That is the power to cut steel. There is after this conversation right here, these words here can be interpreted in so many ways and I can really take more time to unpack exactly how everything I just talked about relates to these words. But this video I know is already so long, so I'll just continue and hear your thoughts in the comments, and we can expand on it maybe at a later point. There is after this where you There is a scene after this where you can see Zoro looking at his opponent. Mr. One's mouth is moving. He is clearly talking, but Zoro cannot hear him. His mind is blocking out the sound of his voice to focus on the breath of his steel. I'm digressing a lot, but This also makes me think about quantum physics and vibrations. Everything has a vibration, even sounds and smells. A quote from Albert Einstein, everything in life is vibration. The law of nature that states everything has a vibration. If you've taken a chemistry class, you probably remember learning about atoms, and that everything is made up of atoms. These atoms are in a constant state of motion, and depending on the speed of these atoms, things appear as solid, liquid, or gas. Sound is also a vibration, and so are thoughts. A breath, the breath of rocks. Trees have the breath of trees, and the sand has its own. Is that what it means? To cut nothing is to know that breath. That is the power to cut steel. These atoms are in a constant state of motion, and depending on the speed of the atoms, things appear as solid, liquid, or gas. Sound is also a vibration, and so are thoughts. Could it be that this breath that he speaks about is, in fact, these vibrations? Or a different, you know how many people believe that religions are a different way of interpreting the same thing? Breath, vibration, energy, God, love, I'm not smart enough to break this down simply, so I'll just copy the summary. Vibration in quantum physics means that everything is energy. We are beings that vibrate at certain frequencies. Same like how, think about a radio, the frequencies, you turn it to a specific station, it catches that, it happens through the air. If you can believe in that, why is it so difficult to believe in this? Each vibration is equivalent to a feeling, and in the vibrational world, there are only two types of vibrations, positive vibration and negative vibration. I believe that it's this understanding that Zoro tapped into. He understood what this energy, this breath is, and therefore understood how to cut it. Just like Luffy couldn't defeat Crocodile because how he was fighting was not effective. In a similar way, how Zoro was going about trying to cut steel with force was not effective. It isn't just about force and power, that kind of power anyway. Luffy's fight, however, and solution was all still physical. I'm just trying to make it easier to understand my theory here. So I'm not equating their two fights in the same way. I'm just trying to say how he was fighting up to now wasn't effective. Zoro's fight, on the other hand, has transcended from being a physical fight into a spiritual fight, in a sense. Although spirituality and our temporal physical nature is intertwined indefinitely, as human beings, we can't have one without the other. So even though I say his fight now is a spiritual one, it's with these concepts, understanding what his Shisho told him, but as human beings, as physical beings, we can't just live spiritually, we still have these bodies, Now that Zoro understands nothing, he can will his own energy from his body to his mind to his katana. It's all one, it's all nothing, to cut through the energy of steel. This is the best way I can describe my thoughts for now. It's only a theory, and a few people, to my dismay, have already told me what happened in episode 119 is basically explained in one of the episodes or chapters that recently came out. Luckily, no one went into any detail, but still, I just want to emphasize again, don't even tell me when something or if something is revealed. Honestly, considering the time I put into my notes, even things you don't consider spoiler could really negatively affect my enjoyment of the series. So when in doubt, whether something is spoilery or not, please just don't comment. Katana follows will. Even during Zoro's final move, Itoryu Iai Shishi Son Son. So Itoryu Iai is one sword style, Shishi Son Son. The music seems almost spiritual or esoteric, and he ends with, I give you my thanks. Gratitude itself is also a spiritual concept. Gautama Buddha himself was a grateful Buddha. It has been written that following his enlightenment, Buddha stood without moving his eyes as he meditated under the Bodhi tree as a sign of gratitude and thanks to the tree that had sheltered him during his struggles. In Buddha's teaching, gratitude plays an important role, especially when talking about a person's integrity. According to the Katanyu Suttas, gratitude, Buddha said, "A person of integrity is grateful and thankful. This gratitude, this thankfulness, is advocated by civil people. It is entirely on the level of people of integrity." Gratitude is also found in the Mangala Sutta scriptures in the Pali Canon, I don't know how to say that, Canon, which states that gratitude is one of the most auspicious signs that one is making spiritual progress. He ends with, "I give you my thanks." If that isn't a sign, auspicious sign of spiritual progress, I don't know what is. And even Mr. One at the end says, within this very fight, he has transcended himself. Okay, so my notes are ridiculously long, but I do have a copied and pasted comment or message from a patron that I really enjoyed reading. And if you can just click the link in the description that takes you to these notes, it's on page 93. It starts on page 93. He wrote some pretty awesome thoughts, including manga panels. If you guys want to go read that, I would love to hear your thoughts. Okay, that is it from my side. This video will probably take some time to upload, but I was really looking forward to sharing this with everyone, so I'm also very much looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Thank you. I give you my thanks. I appreciate you guys watching these highlights and listening to my thoughts. Please feel free to share yours in the comment section. I'll see you next time. Bye.